Are animated hulks any good? Oh, I'm sure a bunch of you will scoff. And believe me, I wasn't sure what to think either. Animated hulks, actually undead ogres long before ogres were implemented in the game, are definitely a weird unit, but they're also a tier 2 building recruited monster then, and that makes them notable. They're flawed menaces, but they have their strengths, so stay tuned. Please like, subscribe, comment, and donate spare booty and spoils to my Ko-Fi Hidden Cove. Thanks for all your support. Animated hulks have 16 entities per unit on Ultra. The base is 750 to recruit in campaign and 500 in multiplayer. Anyway, that means 188 upkeep per turn default, in a faction where the legendary lords can beat upkeep down very heavily. Health is 9,632 across the entire unit, so 602 per entity. Yes, this is actually more health than Minotaurs. Armor is 30, which is not as low as zombie deckhands, but it's low enough. Leadership is 35, which is your low undead faction level. Speed is 42, which is not that fast, unless you're comparing to zombies with speed 23, which you kind of should. Melee attack begins at 28, and this can get buffed through skills, so stay tuned on that. Attack interval is 3.8, which is something I want to note because the game doesn't come out and tell you that. And people ask why I bother with stats. More to the point, why does the game consider this to be anti-infantry? Well, the splash size is medium and the maximum number of targets damaged by one wide attack is 6. 6 is unusually, even dramatically high. This too is something the game doesn't come out and tell you. So in spite of the other shortcomings and the apparent clumsiness of the unit, it has some serious disruptive value. Melee defense is 24, and for a tier 2 monster unit, we shouldn't expect more. They're not duelists, they're bludgeoners. Weapon strength is 90, split between 28 base damage and 62 armor piercing. Let me point out that both the top figure and the armor piercing are higher than rat ogres, but rat ogres have great pouncing animations and deserve praise as more cannon than glass. Also, rat ogres have better than the hulk's anemic charge bonus of 12. This unit can brawl, but it is a relative wet noodle charging in. Speaking of charging in, mass is 1500, which is quite chunky. The unit may not have charge reflection or anything like that, but if you need some monsters to stop a Bretonian charge, with their chests, the animated hulks will do it. Animated hulks have standard undead features like causing fear, but this unit also counts as siege attack. They are aquatic in case you get a rare chance to exploit that characteristic. In the Lord Redline skills, Drowned and Bound offers a maximum of plus 8 melee attack and plus 12% weapon strength, which I mentioned because going from 28 to 36 is a big jump, and that's not considering XP chevrons, and weapon strength started pretty high to begin with. Well-seasoned undead hulks reaching rank 7 benefit from masterly splicing, gaining plus 8 leadership, which is a weakness of the unit, remember, plus 10% speed, which makes them easier to use, and plus 5 melee defense, which solves another kind of weakness. The tech tree provides a few significant advantages, all found in the Salvage Crew section. Protection from the elements grants 20% spell resistance to hulks, making them far harder to char and broil. Straining at the Leash provides an extra plus 10% speed boost, with an entire plus 15 flat charge bonus. Remember how we started with only 12? Now it's 27. That's a huge leap. Finally, Enduring Reanimation knocks 10% off the upkeep, but like with the Sirens, this is a one-turn local recruitment monster unit in Warhammer 3, so the upkeep is the only benefit. On the other hand, that ease of recruitment is one of the other big saving graces of such a low-tier monster unit. So, how do you use animated hulks? Well, I've hinted here and there, but I want to explain something first. If you look at the infantry building, you get deckhand mobs, then at tier 2, deckhand mobs with polearms. And for whatever reason, scurvy dogs got stuck here too. I know they used to be obtained from ports in Warhammer 2, but in Warhammer 2, garrisons used to have their own bloated corpses, which was awesome and hilarious, and cursed gold upon whomever removed them. Anyway, there's no tier 3 infantry building. It's a big fat nothing until you get to tier 4 and 5 for Depth Guard and the polearms variant, and those aren't really line units. So you'd think the Vampire Coast have no front line between Zero and Hero, nothing between zombie and elite vampire infantry with cool looking sea armor Loke here ought to be jealous of? But that's where I was wrong for a long time. And probably a lot of people out there are too. The front line? There's a front line in the middle, but it's found in the monsters. Animated Hulks aren't the only such unit, but they're the bottom tier of that section. Let's remind ourselves of that HP. 9,600 and change. Obviously, the disadvantage of this unit is that unlike deckhand mobs, they are especially vulnerable to spearmen, even basic spearmen that aren't armor-piercing. The armor-piercing delivered in return seems wasted on the basic ones, but that's not the whole story. Just by virtue of the fact that they're large, animated Hulks can block any charge by cavalry or chariots with their bulk. Just by virtue of the fact that there are 16 entities on Ultra, you can land mortar shells in between them or hit the area with area effect spells. I mean, they're low enough leadership, it might knock the stuffing out of them and get them crumbling, but the direct damage will be a lot lower than if you were hitting zombies. It is to the point that you can call zombies anti-synergy with the area effect damage in the faction. Ditto for bomber units. Ditto for the Queen Bess. Maybe the lower number of entities will make it easier for missile units to fire into the melee because they refuse to do so even when it's just zombie deckhands and the Admiral doesn't care about losing them. The point is, you have options you didn't have before. Like the zombies, they're still ticking time bombs. And unlike the zombies, they have 2,400 less hit points to start with unit-wide. Essentially, you really want/need a plan to kill whatever is hitting them. Also, they're large targets, so obviously they're going to get shot at. In actual melee, they do just fine. They may be clumsy, but every hit tears a big chunk through armor. One other area where they will do particularly awfully: auto-resolve. The low armor gets them treated as taking hits like they're bodyguards for zombie deckhand CEOs. If you get serious about using these, get serious about not using auto-resolve. Also remember that trees body block arrows too. It comes up a lot. This unit can hide in forest, but mostly, forests just take up lots of space. I'm guessing that the reason this unit is scored how it is in campaign is because in multiplayer, with no campaign buffs, it leaves them in a pretty weakened and pathetic state. And campaign fully buffed, the Hulks are significantly stronger. So if you are going to use them, you might want to buff them up as if applying spit and polish. Invest in them, and they'll hit less like shrimp and more like ogre enemy crabs. And just to mention, Sirens inflict terror the Hulks do not, and the enthralling attacks makes the low armor matter less, so it's okay to mix and match a little. And even the Hulks are way faster than your zombies. It starts to matter. Take care and have fun showing infantry blobs just how animated you can be.